can see I'm just yards also, oh, get off, from the cathedral. See it around there? Impressed? So this is the building we're staying at. And my room is there. Hello. So, last night, I met all the other guests, right, and they're all ancient, but they're nice enough in their young man sort of way. The food is absolutely lovely, but we don't actually have a choice. Thankfully, they're sort of like hitting the spot each time. The introduction was a little bit formal. One of the first things that was said to me was that the woman who'd heard my tape, this is the organiser, who'd heard my tape for the Premendal Manor House, didn't like it. Which was rather ironic, seeing as the lecture taken by her husband that night was absolutely abysmal. The information was okay, but often wrong. His working of the slide projector was non-existent. Oh, the presentation was poor. Anyway, now I'm off to the cathedral, because we have a guided tour of the cathedral roof and things like that. In fact, the lecture was so bad, I'm going on a ghost walk tonight. Now, have a look at this. Oh my God, I'm going to the top of that today. No. And here's the west front, with some of the ancient old biddies I'm doing the tour with standing outside.
Things like this.
Yes.
Snake, snake,
Yeah.
and the fall of man.
Yes.
Brought about by woman. You know.
It could happen again.
So you see then the different orders are circles around here.
Turn them out in a workshop.
The body probably kept the same when you came along.
Anyway, the idea with all cathedrals of the period and large churches and so on was that the west end would be very, very impressive. And that
west front of the cathedral as built by the religious. You're sitting just here, that little arch there, is that one there. There's another big one back of this is about 1700 screen wall, and that arch is behind that actually, so we'll be up into that. That's it as modified by Alexander, who put the gables and the bases of the tower and the stone vault, which probably caused the ultimate collapse. Okay. So you're sitting in the Gothic part, which was built round the Romans. Okay? If you've not been in here before, I want to point out a couple of things. That is part of the Romanesque frieze coming around the building. So that's in fairly good shape, but it hasn't. If anyone particularly wants to go and look at that, we can look at it at the end of the tour. We can go up to that later. But that's a piece of the frieze that's in fairly good shape because it's been inside for most of its life. We think that was a little doorway that gave access to a little stairway down the outside by which the soldiers came in and out. It was built originally as a doorway rather than a window. The Romanesque frieze on the front. this is where it gets really, really fanciful. Company of soldiers down here.
Yes.
Where is the captain going? This little band going to be? Well, up here. You know, don't want to be a bit all
Don't
right
want
down there. No, no, indeed. Certainly someone was here a long time and wrote on the walls. These days it's Manchester United Football Club. In those days it was a little bit more sophisticated than that. I'm not sure whether the torches are held here or not. I think it's probably a hindrance. No, I think you see it better without. You see?
Yeah.
So this is quite a decent carving.
Oh, yes.
And it's old.
Use hot candle wax.
Red hot sandals are another favourite, you know, it cut out your chainmail, it's really nasty stuff. But it was a defensive machicolation, we think. The Victorians filled it in. It was, yes, exactly. I'm not sure about the batting. They did the Lark Ascendant, and then we had Green's Peer Gynt after that. It didn't seem right. I wish they'd had the Lark Ascendant just after the there you go. Right, people always say, when they come into the place, either there's nowhere to sit down, so nothing much happens, or if we've got the chairs out, they say, aren't these blue chairs horrid, can't you afford proper pews, you know, so whichever way we don't win. And you can see, it's a lot of work. It really is a tremendous amount of work. But when the chairs have gone, you see a medieval cathedral with a stone floor, and that's the way it should be. And it's glorious, especially on a sunny day when the light's shining through the windows.
You have sunny days?
Oh, it has. So you lower the string, the ropes come down, and then as soon as you touch one of the sallies, the bell will come over, because they're left upset, they're left upside down like that. See, any bell ringers here? I don't know anything about bells. I know there were 13 bells in this tower. We don't ring more than one in one peal, but it enables you to ring different combinations of bells, so you can get different changes. Started building it before they started the cathedral, but it was originally an earth bank with a wooden palisade on top, because they had to let the earth consolidate before they could put stone on it. So we were actually building in stone first, but the castle came first, but not in stone. The little tower you can just about see peering out of the gloom on the left-hand side is the observatory tower, so-called because one of the prison governors put his telescope on it. There was actually a big stack up here in 1241, 1242, can't remember. The Empress Matilda was in the castle and King Stephen was here. And it's recorded that Stephen actually erected engines of war on the front of the Cathedral of Our Lady of Lincoln. So he actually had, I don't know whether it's big catapults or what it was, but he had engines of war up here.
Must cost a fortune in roof insulation.
Well, it's pretty thick, our roof insulation, actually. It's about 2 feet, so.
Oh, this is amazing.
Right, if you like to, if some like to just come past me, somewhere in the middle. Right. I think the easiest way is to actually build this place for you and explain how we think it was done. On a limestone foundation, so there's no problem there. Be careful you don't slip on the roof.
You all out safely?
Yeah, all right.
If you look at the ground,
No.
if you look down grass, if you can bear to,
Yes.
and then look up at the top of the tower, that's how high the spire was. The spire was as high as the tower itself. So the building was twice as high. It was 540 feet, and the biggest thing in the world when it was erected. So
There's a spire on there, wasn't there?
if you look at the top half of the tower, you can see again that it's different from the
Yes.
bottom half,
Yes.
you see. So that went up in 1320, and they put, in 1311, and they put a spire on that was as high as the building itself. It's needless to say it blew off. But it was up there until 1549, so it lasted over 200 years.
Yes.
And there were also spires, when they raised those towers in 1420, they put spires on those as well.
And last year, someone suggested that for the millennium, we ought to put plastic spires on and raise it to its previous height, the Dean and Chapter. It's plate tracery, you cut out inside, whereas this one is fast tracery, where it's a bit strange, put on like the vault. So it's quite interesting to see the photos in place.
I was interested to see it's got a little bit of its stained glass back in this year. It wasn't there last year.
And give problems. If you look at that big central stone building, continues.
Some places tie all these together, and they don't do it here. So it's really only these tiles are doing business, you know. But sometimes they tie the whole lot together with the sole plate underneath those. You see. And it floats in space, and the ties go off from that out to the walls, you see.
Oh, right.
So the ring is not on the port, is the intention of being pulled out, you see. Those are only to get wires up, these are not supporting. But so that ring is actually sort of floating in space there with the ties running on top, you see. It's all coming interlaced to make it strong.
Be there. They have a model of it down in one of the transits,
Yes, they have.
but it's an extraordinary piece of carpenter's geometry to get that incredible landing.
Yeah, there's a nice model of York too down below, which shows you how York is.
Haven't been here, haven't seen it.
So Edward I sat in this last week.
Yes. Incredible, isn't it? On Sylvia's birthday.
Oh really? When was it your birthday? 5 days before me.
Pete was born, the mayor was born. You know, it's
He's just coughed up something unpleasant.
Oh no, not a horrible thought. You'd do better to get, because there are other lovely hound looking up at his hand. You get it from the lawn, looking up that way, if you like.
I might do that, John. Just having a shot now.
Sizing up shots, yes. Heads to these famous roofs. There's one good head.
Judgment door, that's distinct from the other kind of entrance. Gallery. To build a wall, sort of protecting the ecclesias inside from the quite often irate citizens outside. In fact, in the 14th century, the wall was raised still higher, 18 inches, possibly 2 feet. And then the third story was getting out again. There are all sorts of explanations given in various books for the jetting.
Roman pillars used to be.
Sorry.
I thought we wanted to look at it,
Oh, right.
photograph it.
Yes.
Well, we're looking at the Newport Arch. Of course, that's a later name.
People who want to come and look. Can be awkward. Not bad. Yes.
You all had a chance to do what you want to do. In Britain, so there.
Higher than Richborough?
Hmm?
Higher than Richborough?
I don't know. I'll
Yeah,
tell you
yeah.
what
The,
they
the
say.
gymnasium at Roxeter's pretty tall.
Yes.
Well, we're looking at a surviving Norman merchant's house. And it's called the Norman House. So we're looking at this timber-framed house, which is quite often described as the leaning house. So it's rather later for timber-frame buildings, but as you can see, it's stone for the ground floor and first floor, with the timber structure only at the second floor level. It's got the name Harding House because it was given by Canon Harding to the city corporation. It dates from 1170. It's very Romanesque. You can by now recognise those features. Of course, it's got much later shop fronts in it. Built in stone, not so many buildings would have been in stone at that time, but as I explained last night, the Jews' houses needed to be substantial and well protected against people who wanted to attack them. Of course, they kept within the building their wealth.
Well, it may well have had a central fireplace in the upstairs hall originally. It certainly had a fireplace put in on the side because the chimney is actually over the doorway there.
Well, it all looks quite peaceful now, but it was once a very busy waterway, and particularly in the late 18th century and into the 19th century, very, very busy indeed, with particularly...
Come with me. I'm on the second floor. And this is my room.
These poor people had to end up building this castle for him and digging the ditch for him. So they weren't too happy with him. So the ditch, I would have said, would have come from the beginning of the tower there, and it would have landed. See the White House? It was quite a large ditch, and it would have gone gradually up. With the land, with the earth, the building that in front of us was the Victorian ladies' prison. It was a debtors' prison for ladies who couldn't pay the bills, but more like ladies who wouldn't pay the bills. So what I want you to look at though is the old window. That's medieval. That's 400 years older than the building it's standing.
Look, it's me! And so's that.
So we're going to have a lot of steps to climb. Does everybody want to climb the steps?
Yeah, go on, let's go for it.
Do we go straight on to the Lucy Tower along the wall?
I wish we could, sir, but I'm
Oh.
afraid we can't.
I'll join you at the Lucy Tower. I don't need to see. I don't need to see an 18th century.
Well, we've just seen the Magna Carta for real, and they wouldn't let me film it.
The bottom
So I
part
killed
is an
them.
element cross.
So this is it looking much more like a prison.
We've all decided they want to go to the very top of the tower. Very good, why not?
And it is actually good life.
You're not going to the very top. No, definitely not 40 miles a day.
Is that the view?
She's sending me. There's nothing there. Isn't there?
Do watch your head.
Scheint ja auch nicht offen zu sein.
Wat was dat in? Maar dat is toch hier, dat was de kief. De kief, de grenzen dat dat is.
Ja, gut, da drüben, das wird nicht.
Made out of wood. And this is where you would have come as the last resort of the battle. If the castle was taken, you would have come here. All the soldiers. It was him. There he is. William Harry. Oh, he didn't even care. He was rather glad, in fact. He wasn't at all sorry. Priscilla figured out that's the sad story, which we couldn't tell. Okay. Now, is everybody here? Now, if you look around the headstones at all, the footstones, no, because we're standing on unconsecrated ground. It was a mark that said that you weren't fit to be buried properly. So these poor people are buried like this. Half of them, I should imagine, innocent. We've got to remember, in 1800, England was very, very poor. No getting away from it. There was a lot of poverty here. This is a sad story again, which I'll quickly tell you about. Her name's called Priscilla Biggerdike. She married when she was quite young. She was in a pig like good. Her husband wasn't very nice to her at all. I mean, in those days, gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, you all did have the rod over the women. You really did. You could do anything with the law and get away with it. The side was always on the... Most castles normally have it on the outside. I was on the inside, we don't know. It might have been the vegetation. I wouldn't have liked to have been sat there, but that would have been the hall, the great hall, where all the cloak room, where they would have taken the clothes off before they went into the garden-robe, into the next room. And I do hear, what the people have told me, a lot of the gardeners have told me that they'd actually leave their clothes there because there would be a lot of beetles and everything, you know, in the place with it being fur and everything. Yeah, it's very sad, but this is, as I said, a long time ago, well, until the last tour, there was, came out like a real little teardrop just there, and that's how I knew they'd have put a link on it. I'll have to have a look now. Again, can you see the walls? That's called weathering. I don't know if I showed you it before. Yes, it's weathering because it's limestone, you see. The walls were about 8 to 10 feet thick, you know. Well, that would have just been built up now. That's just... Well, it would have been done in 1100 time. I want you to notice this barbican on here. This is the barbican. It's dated. If you notice, the other barbicans were rounded. Yeah. Did you notice that? That was 13... And it ran along quite merrily, and then in 1993 we had to, the roof was, something went wrong with the roof I think, and so we had to have it all refurbished. And it's pretty nice in there, you know. This is a kind of nice life in there, if you have a look at it sometime. Alright. Without this, there would have been no castle at all. There was another 4 that were around, but we don't know where they were. Probably one over near the East Gate over there. But this was probably Roman because there were houses here, don't forget, before William the Conqueror came. So the Rome is, so it's probably Roman. The lining's probably medieval. It's 42 feet deep. Yeah. And it's got water level of 12 foot.
Oh. Does the 42 include the 12, or is the 12 additional to the 42?
Hall. I'd like you to look at the shape of Cobb Hall, because if you look, it's rectangular on the front, and round there is a semicircle but facing on the outside, and it looks like this. Okay, so we're this side, and this is like that. This was brought back, this was built after the Fair of Lincoln, after the big battle I'm always telling you about. It was an idea brought back by the Crusaders. And the idea was to have this rounded outer circle face so that a battering ram, when you were at battle, could not break down any corners. You know? Yeah. So already they were thinking along this line. It would have been 3 stories. Somebody took a stone down there. Somebody must be feeling fit. Take that now. And I've got one up there. It's cool in here, isn't it? It's nice in here. Imagine what it's like on a cold winter's day, though. I see how high it's done. Done like the inside of a cathedral, actually, this is done. And this was to take a heavier roof, or in our case, the catapult on the roof. Something heavy was to go up there. It's got windows, little arrow slits right around, like I said, at 180 degrees. Getting quite muggy, isn't it? Are you all right, everybody?
Yep. Hanging in there.
You're hanging in.
Oh, it's a great view.
It's a great view. You'll all sleep well tonight, anyway. Where are you going to stop tonight? Going home tonight?
No, we're staying in
Hurry on, just keep on. All right, now here we are. This was where the people was executed. For 42 years, this was the open execution was in here. Now the scaffolding, because don't forget I've told you the crowd were down there,
Yeah, they had to be able to
£2,000-3,000
see.
pounding.
Yeah.
They wanted to see. So the platform would have been as high as that and brought out to here and down to there. Okay? Now, the one that we had in Lincoln took 3 people. So what we would do is, you see the iron strappings along the wall here? What we would have done was, we would have been right round the parapet wall, we would have put ropes through there and fastened them right up very high to the scaffolding. Okay? We could execute 3 people at once if we wanted to. There were 38 prisoners executed here. Needless to say, the first was a woman. Or livelihood, you were taking from somebody else. You were breaking the law, taking money from somebody else. All right? Their livelihood. So 38 prisoners were actually executed up here. And they weren't executed in the normal way where we think they're going to be executed. They only got 3 foot of rope. So no matter how big you were, how thin you were, how fat you were, how little you were, you only got 3 foot of rope, which meant you were strangled to death. You weren't, you know, not like
Didn't snap the neck.
You didn't snap the neck. Oh, that happened in 1972, that came out by William Marwood. So it was a terrible way to die. It took half an hour to die. Over there would have been all the invited guests, like I told you. And they used to have little boys. Do you know the story? They used to have little boys. They used to come running along here. Because by the time these poor old people were trying to die, you know, it was taking them a long time. Those people out there was enjoying all of this, you know. They'd come to see a hanging. Then they were going to go home and have a dinner. Anyway, and these little boys would jump up onto this platform and hang on to the feet. And they call these hangers on. So if anybody calls you a hanger on, you know, just say, hey, don't you call me that, it's not very nice. You know, that's what they're called hangers on. So, however, as I told you, Mary Ann Milner, she cheated the people of this hanging. She didn't want to be hanged at all here. When she saw that crowd out there, and she hung herself in her cell. Of course, it caused great riot the next day. The prisoners, the prisoners said, bring out another prisoner, bring out another prisoner. Anyway, we didn't bring one out, and they went home very disappointed. So what they did, I don't know, they could have beaten hell out of each other. Who knows what they must have done in those days, I mean, in their sense of humour. And now, there was a certain man, and I've lost his name, and he's gone downstairs now. Jack, his name was. He was lovely. I think he was lovely anyway. I don't know what anybody else thinks. But he was done for horsewhip stealing. Again, a bit of a naughty boy, a bit of a cad I think, but quite an interesting character. And his mother always said, when you die, she says, you'll die with your boots off. And what happened? When he was dying, he kicked his boots off. Memory, you know. So it always says a woman's word is always the last word. But you know, the funny thing was, I was telling this story, and this girl was awfully, Brammer his name was awfully interested in this story. And it's a really good job. I said he was a sweetheart and he was a real sweetie, because I thought she's asking me an awful lot of questions. Afterwards, she came up to me. And she said, I just wanted to tell you, you know, she says that he was my great-grandfather. Oh, thank God, I said he was a good boy. I'm just going to show you the view. Would you like to come and look at the view? Over to the cathedral, and then we're nearly to...
We'll discover that later.
That's the convicts act. You didn't have a chance if you were there. You were executed. Talking to them and telling everybody what they had done wrong. He named them. Now, they couldn't see the next prisoner. And this was the only place they could take those caps off. I never told you about this. One veil which covered their faces. And they weren't allowed to be seen. You would have had the people at the back, where the gentleman was, they were to be executed. Who cared if you saw them? They were going to die anyway. how morbid this place must have been to these people on a dreary Sunday, wintry evening. It must have been hell to have been in here, you know. I went to that.
He'd have saved his friend's life. He had the pardon. He couldn't forgive himself. He just went straight out into the stables and hanged himself. And we believe this is John Knox's friend, still trying to save John from the gallows, and he never will. So are we all here at 4 in the morning? Going to test it out? He'd been very mysterious. He'd look for the rolling pin, it'd be in the fridge. The kettle had been in a cupboard. Childish, silly things were happening. And then one day he realised he was sharing his kitchen with a little boy of about 10, whom he'd christened Humphrey. Again, he didn't tell any of it here. Behind us is the round window. It's the bishop's eye window. At the other side of the cathedral is the dean's eye window, and that was done first. It was done by the cathedral master glazier, and it's absolutely beautiful if you're inside on a sunny day. It really lights up. It's wonderful. And everyone said how beautiful it was. People came from miles to look at Lincoln Cathedral's dean's eye window. But he had an apprentice who had to do a piece of work to become a master, wearing black clothing and like a flying saucer hat. We looked that up, it would be a 16th century priest. They looked sort of surprised where he'd come from, but he looked horrified. They'd seen him, and you don't often get that because they're usually in their own time. He turned to walk away and just disappeared in front of them. And it was a bright sunny morning, but we do know one had got very friendly with some of the local ladies, and he knew his time was up, and he did hang himself under the arch. When it's very windy here, you can hear the rope creaking. If you walk down those steps, just keep your ears open, because so many people have said about the footsteps that follow you. When Dr. David was researching for the Ghost Walk, his wife's a medium, psychic medium, and they were walking up and down there all day, and the footsteps followed them, but there's only one set of footsteps, so it's not an echo, because there were two people up there to say your God and your bishop have got their eye on you. And in the bay window of the pub, you can just see him looking at you. I don't think it would affect them. They'd probably go right round to the White Hart where they couldn't see us at all. Just as we pass this little garden with railing, where the manacles are still, where they manacle the prisoners. Between 1816 and 1859, they hanged 3 women and 35 men publicly up there. The last 2 men were hanged together, and there were 20,000 people just pushed into this area to come and see the last public hanging.
Anyway, this part of the Whitefriars that survives. This was used as the porter's lodge to what was called, not the hospital, the Stamford Infirmary from 1848. Oh yes, have a look at that now. On there, Elizabeth's now cooperating. We'll have a look at Brown Hospital. Brown So if you remember what we're looking at outside, the 3 service doorways out of Grace Hall, well here they are. This went right through
To the kitchen.
the kitchen, way out here. So this area here was the pantry with the pantry. And then over there,
Use the battery.
That's 6. Ten o'clock at night. It's Sunday morning, and this is the last official day. And tomorrow, I will be going over here. Yes, and find places for poo. I'm now back in Lincoln Castle. I'm at the bottom of Cobb Hall in the oubliette. It's cold, it's dark, and it's very, very creepy. In fact, I don't think I'll hang out here much longer because it's freaking me out a bit. This is the dungeon part where people were dropped down and just forgotten about. And it ain't nice. And here's where Last Communion was given, as the condemned were led up the stairs to be executed. Some carvings on the wall. And that's the last walk to the scaffold. That's part of the old gatehouse down there. That's the lawn where I was working over Christmas. Panning round over the castle wall, onwards. Yeah, back of the Crown Court, towers, Lincoln Cathedral over there. Anyway, I'm now at Pottergate. Yeah. There we are. And a cathedral over there. Monday morning, the 5th of June. 8 o'clock-ish. One last view out of my window. There we are, Lincoln Cathedral just... There we are. Quick look out the back window of the sitting room. Which is this. This is where I wrote postcards and did my diary and stuff, in that sofa there. Well, it's now 9:25. I've now left. I'm just doing a day trip around Lincoln now with all my baggage. Had the first real downer of the holiday, which I think sucked big time. I went back to the cathedral because we hadn't actually seen around the inside. It had only been the roof. And I'd asked if I could just pop in to see the Lincoln Imp, and they insisted on charging me again, so I said no and I left. Which is disgraceful because I'd already paid once and I hadn't actually seen the cathedral itself. So stuff them. Anyway, I'm now at Eastgate and I'm going to show you a Roman tower. It was the Eastgate, it was the northernmost bastion of the Eastgate, and here it is. Yeah, well, lovely big bugger. That was the guard chamber at the bottom, and those steps, big as they are, led to a second floor. Those bits of wood is where pillars were. Still stands nearly 8 feet high, which isn't bad for Roman wall. I'm now down a very quiet road called East Bight. It used to be part of the medieval and Roman street, and it's now completely deserted. No traffic, very quiet. See Newport Arch down there in the distance. But what I'm looking at is this. Excavated in the 60s, old section of Roman wall, unchanged since it was drawn in the 18th century. You can see down there something's marked out. That's the site of an old water tank. If you look down, see it slopes downwards, that's actually the old city ditch. And right next door is the remains of an old interval tower. Here it is. Hee 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 hee. Oh! Here's a bleak one for you. This is where they were taken for a last drink before they were executed.
One of the major new amenities enjoyed by the Prince and many thousand visitors since is the Sir Joseph Banks Tropical Conservatory. Lincolnshire born, Joseph Banks was one of the most important figures in botanical discovery. He was the chief scientific officer aboard Captain Cook's Endeavour, which circumnavigated the globe in 1768.
And here is the place where I was working over Christmas. It's all got a bit pear-shaped. 3/4 of an hour standing in the lobby to the castle to try and get some information on the executions, which I was subsequently told they couldn't give me anyway. She'd even made the photocopies, but it was confidential, so they have to go and check with superiors. Real waste of time. Very awkward as well. It just snowballed. I was just standing there and they were getting worse and worse. Anyway, the Bishop's Palace. And thus we begin. Ooh. And here was the doorway leading to a place for poo. A place for washing hands after poo. Poo room. And a view from the second floor with my ex room. just over there. But no longer. Alas. And down there, remains of the palace. Fairly extensive, should be quite fun. This is the hall. Window. Stairs to nowhere. Yes. Got one. There we are. Aisles. This is where the dais was. Pillars up the end. Service doors. Upstairs door. And little room off the side. Nicely porched. Oh, nice. This is the underneath of the kitchen, where people would make food that would soon become poo. And this is the northernmost vineyard in Europe. And the wine is meant to taste like wee. I am now under the East Hall. And it's fairly extensive. Nasty dark rooms.
down here is a dark store. With fireplace up here? Yes. And now up the stairs next to it. Here we are. And this is the northeast range with the oratory and audience chamber. No, that was the treasury. This is the audience chamber. With doors. There are doors everywhere. What is in there? It is black, we will not know. It is very confusing. A secret place. Perhaps for Pooh. Now, we go through to the oratory system. This is the oratory. And now above it, that is a doggy eye view. Guess what that is? I'm not saying it, but you know, don't you? You know what went down there. Yes. A view over the far wall, and the vineyard and Lincoln, which I will soon, in a couple of hours, be leaving. And back over the site, yes. Ah, it is now midday. Let us listen to the chimes of Lincoln Cathedral as we look around this magnificent site where so many lords and ladies have farted over the centuries. That's quite enough of that, thank you. a very steep place called Motherby Hill, all to do with Roman defences. This is Greyfriars. As you can see, the bastards are closed, so no going in now. But this is the Central Library, where I did Night Before Christmas in '98. Yes. Saxon Tower of St Mary's le Wigford. I leave very, very soon. Here is a Roman tombstone for a family. Couldn't find St Mary Guildhall. My feet are aching. I've decided at 1:10 it's time to go. And so I'm going. And so I'm going to fade out.